Hi, I'm Mr. Rosengrant. We have with us today Melissa Falk, Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at Muhlenberg College. Melissa, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And today we want to talk about college applications and the different ways to apply to college. There's applying through a regular traditional method of applying to college, but there's also some other options like early action or early decision. Can you tell us a little bit about those different options and what they mean?
Sure. So one of the things you're probably going to learn very quickly in the college search and application process, there's this whole alphabet soup, if you will, of different application plans. But spending some time to sort of make sure that you understand what those plans are in advance of submitting applications is definitely worth the time. So regular decision application plans is something in which it's a plan in which students have the opportunity to apply and submit their application. It is a non-binding process, which means that students can submit multiple regular decision applications at many different colleges and universities, hopefully not too many, but many. And ultimately, while there is an application deadline, there's also then a regular general notification date, specifically oftentimes for regular decision, a date in the spring when everybody hears about their admissions decision. There are rolling notification processes in regular decisions as well, where students will hear on a rolling basis. And so they can still apply to many different colleges and universities simultaneously, but they might hear on a rolling basis. So for example, there might be a priority deadline date where a student may then hear earlier, but is still allowed to wait to hear from other places and keep their other applications active. And so a decision timeline might be tied to how early a student actually submits an application and completes their application. So regular decision in general, as far as your thinking is concerned, is that you're allowed to have multiple applications that are regular decision to multiple colleges and universities at the same time. Early action is an application plan that allows for students to apply earlier in the process. Typically, they're notified earlier, and typically, but not always, is non-binding, which means that if a student applies early action to a non-binding college or universities, they have the opportunity to apply by a certain priority date or earlier in the process, and they get to hear earlier in terms of notification. And it allows them to know early on, potentially, what their opportunities may be in terms of admission and financial aid oftentimes at that college or university. Students who do apply early action, while it's non-binding in most cases, again, please check each college and university's policies on that. Oftentimes, students who do apply early action places have a pretty strong interest in that school. And it's not that it's always their first choice, but it's typically in the top group of choices if a student is looking at early action, but it's not required to be so. There are some early action schools where it is binding in that if you apply early action to a particular college or university that has that policy, you cannot apply early action to any other college or university simultaneously. So again, you want to make sure that you check admissions policies at all the colleges and universities that you are applying to make sure that the admissions plan is what you understand it to be. Finally, early decision is a first choice binding option that many, but not all colleges and universities offer as an application plan. And oftentimes early decision will have more than one date. It could be an early decision 1 or early decision 2. And the difference between the two is actually the timeline. Oftentimes that early decision 1 deadline is earlier in the fall. It could be as early as the beginning, late October, the beginning of November to mid-November or early December. And then early decision 2 oftentimes has a later deadline date, typically mid-January to beginning of February, or perhaps even earlier than that. In both instances, early decision is a first choice binding agreement, which says if you are the student who's applying early decision to that particular college or university, you are saying, you are my first choice, and if I admitted, you can expect me in your first year class in the following fall. And so that's a really big commitment. And it's oftentimes a commitment that not everybody can make, given that the financial understanding in terms of what kinds of financial resources you might have as an early decision applicant may not be available in terms of information to you prior to you submitting that early decision application. you want to be careful there too in terms of making sure that information that you and your family need, both on the academic and admission side, as well as the financial side, is in hand before you make a commitment like that. I think that's where it's really important, as I mentioned before, to make sure that you look at each college and university's admissions plans and what those requirements are and what they really mean, but also consult with your resources at your high school, like your school counselor. They're going to help you differentiate not only what do those plans mean, but also what plan actually works for you in terms of your admissions plan. The good news is you've got lots of choices. You're not required to apply regular decision, early action, or early decision to any of the colleges, universities that you may be looking at, but there may be some individual decisions that might suit you better and suit your family better in terms of the decisions you make about application plans. But again, please consult the individual colleges and universities for specific information about what those plans might mean, and please consult your school counselor for what those plans might mean in terms of the choices you have as an applicant in the process, because your school counselors are going to really guide you in terms of making sure you have the maximum opportunity and the kinds of choices you want to have as far as the admissions process is concerned.
All right, Melissa, thank you very much for your information and thanks for joining us today.
Great. Well, good luck to everybody. Thanks very much.